this recording is kind of a little bit out of order. I wanted to do some different kinds of backgrounds. So by this time, we have the full image backgrounds that fill the whole thing. That's kind of all we've done with images, is fill the whole thing with an image, which is nice, but sometimes you want a different way of attaching images. And I have some files prepared where I did some different kinds of backgrounds. So I have the big backgrounds, but then I also did some where they would tile. So here I have some hardware nuts in a grid of 16. And I have this one where it's just the two nuts to put in. So I wanted to show how we could, some of the options we have with those other kinds. So I have hardware.jpg and hardnuts.jpg to work with. So let's try putting one of those behind here in the portfolio background. So we have the portfolio background here. We already have a color for it in our styles. Actually, it's just BG Light is what we have now. And that's why it's what it is. So let's do it specifically for this portfolio thing. We just need to know what selector we're going to use. So we have our section BG Light, but it has an ID name of portfolio. So we'll hang it on the ID instead of on the BG Light class. And if that doesn't work, we can always take out the BG Light class. So let's go back to our styles. Make sure we know the name of that section again. Portfolio ID portfolio. And I'm going to put that after the BG Light. Where is it? It tells me in this 204. 204 is where it starts. Here it is, BG Light. So do hashtag portfolio. And to make sure I have the right one, I'm just going to try a different background color. Because if this doesn't overwrite it, then we're kind of in trouble. Okay, so it doesn't overwrite it because the other one is an important thing. Like if we were to take off the important... No, the class is more specific. So we might need to just delete the BG Light class off of it to allow us to use the portfolio thing. So we're going to go to the HTML and take out the BG Light class that's given as background color. So it'll just have the portfolio. So there we can see the red triggering. So we know that we're in control of that background now. So instead of a simple red, we're going to do background image and our URL. And I've done this somewhere else already. So I have the path. To the background folder. Here we go. hardnuts.jpg. Okay. So the default we're seeing here is that it's tiling. And I made the image so that the spaces between, so after the initial 4, it would start over again with a good amount of space that's similar to the other thing. So that's working pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, that's not bad. If So there are a few options I have since tiling is the default. I could tell it to tile just one way or the other, but that default tiling works. In the smaller size, I'm not seeing the background work that well, but in the large size, it's kind of nice. So I could do another @media rule to scale it. Let's see what the other one looks like. Hardware. So that one works pretty good too. So this one, the unit image is just the 2. And when you do in opposite corners, then you get this nice repeating pattern that alternates. Let's try scaling the background. So if I do another line here, I can do background size. So up until now we've done like cover or contain. So you can see what that does. So instead of tiling it, it's still going to tile, but it maximizes the space first. So that's definitely not what we want. It's huge. But instead of doing cover or contain, we can actually do a size. So 50% would be half the size of what it was. Oh, why am I still? Oh, 50% of the whole thing. That's crazy. Not of itself. What if it was just 5% of the available space? There we go. That's nice and tight. So because it's a percentage thing, that means that as this shrinks, it's going to get even smaller. So when we're in the small mobile size, it's going to get tighter that way. So that's a good way to do a responsive background that looks kind of the scale you want at the size of screen you want. So 10% version. And as it shrinks, it's always going to be 10% of the size. It doesn't really work on the smaller sizes at 10%. Okay, or we can do a specific pixel size. So the default, I think it's a 200 pixel image. I could say I want it to be 100 pixels. So it does the square at 100 pixels, so it's smaller than it was originally. But this way it's going to stay at that size even as I get smaller in scale. So that's more of what I was intending, was so you'd still see it even on the smaller scale there, and it would look okay. So hopefully that makes sense to you. There is a way to do a moving background. I don't have the code right in front of me, so I could do that another time just for fun. But one of the tricks in backgrounds is keep them subtle. So if the image is barely there, it's not going to be quite as disruptive as if it's a louder sort of thing. So this photo that I have with the nuts here, that's scaled back quite a bit, but even then it's still bordering on the extreme of what's still legible with the text. So you want to watch what you do there, and it is kind of fun to alternate pattern backgrounds versus solid color backgrounds versus photos, just so that you have a different feel to different sections, and that can help differentiate your website better. So it doesn't feel like just one thing, but helps you isolate each section visually separately.